Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Finance Musing. So today I'm going to be talking about a company that has been in the news a lot. A lot of folks have been requesting me to talk about it, and that company is Twitter. There are going to be three things that I'm going to try to touch on and really do a deep dive on. One is a little bit about the background of the company, what Twitter does, what their business model is, and then lastly, elephant in the room, Elon Musk, right? And what he's doing right now, and his intentions to take the company private or not, right? So let's dive into that, guys. Welcome to today's episode. So what in the Twitter is happening, right? So as things stand right now, Elon Musk is threatening or saying that he is pulling out of the Twitter deal, at least for the time being. The Twitter board intends to sue, and the legal battle is just getting started. Now, before we get to how we got here today, let's take a step back and think about the beginning. So from a humble beginning in a podcasting office, believe it or not, Jack Dorsey's text messaging idea that started out as a text messaging idea now has over 500 million tweets daily, which is a number that Musk disputes comes from all people. And that's kind of the situation of like, hey, are these bots, are these real people? But anyway, guys, here's the story of Twitter and how it got so big. Let's get started. So back in 2006, Jack Dorsey was working at a podcasting company, Odeo. He was also a NYU student, and he had a dream to create a platform for short text messages that everyone could read. And Dorsey's online communication idea, it feels weird saying that, I feel quite old. His idea was exciting, so he developed a platform with some of his coworkers. And unfortunately, at the time, the Twitter domain was taken, so they stuck with using TWTTR to mimic the 5-letter American texting codes, and they used that for the time being. And that team was Jack Dorsey, Noah Glass, Bistone, Evan Williams, and also a few other folks who worked for Odeo at the time. They were actually the first to use Twitter, and 6 months later, they were actually able to buy the website's domain after launching. Fast forward a few months later, July 15th, 2006, Twitter was announced to the public, and the website did a pretty decent job for a startup run by student workers. At first, they received roughly 20,000 tweets per day. 6 months later, they started seeing 60,000 tweets a day in 2007. So that's a lot of tweets a day. You know, that mass adoption, network effects, all things you want to see in a social media platform. Moving on, meanwhile, Twitter was slowly making a name for itself in the outside world, right? The company had received recognition at the South by Southwest Festival, which really ushered them in and introduced them to the larger social media world. And at this point, Twitter began seeing roughly 300,000 tweets per day by 2008. And by 2010, there were well over 50 million tweets per day. I can't say and even fathom how much that is. That's quite amazing. And soon, companies were calling it the easiest way to communicate with potential clients and customers, and TV shows started promoting their hashtags. So for some context, hashtags are just things like if you're a Lakers fan, you'd have hashtag Lakers, hashtag LeBron James, or if you're a Yankees fan, hashtag Yankees, hashtag Aaron Judge, pay the man Brian Cashman. And what would happen is that, you know, TV shows, celebrities, or whatever, there was a social cause, folks would encourage, you know, consumers on that social media platform like yourself and I, hey, include them in your tweet, right? So these Twitter handles were kind of act as an identifier, which is pretty cool. And over the past several years, Twitter has become one of the largest social media companies. They went public, and people and businesses and celebrities, people are tweeting approximately 500 million times a day. So think about that original 2006 number of 20,000 tweets to now 500 million tweets a day. And Twitter's become an incredibly useful tool, right, for a wide-ranging audience from news organizations, politicians, athletes, and even your favorite artists. You know, it really serves as a direct line for celebrities to speak directly to their fans. Let's fast forward now to Twitter today. You know, one of those celebrities is Elon Musk, you know, and I'd argue he's the most influential person on that platform, short of former President Donald Trump, who was, you know, more or less controversially excommunicated from the platform. And we'll get on that in a little bit. And going back to Elon, he's gone from being their most famous user to potentially becoming the company's next majority owner, you know, through a buyout to take complete control of the company. And the next step for Twitter right now is navigating through this potential Musk buyout that may very well usher in a new chapter of the company, right? And we think about who's leadership, what are their policies regarding free speech, what are their policies regarding the product itself and the user interface. So we'll see what goes on with that. And speaking to Elon Musk, most of you probably know already who he is, but for some context, for some viewers who may not know who he is, he's a CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, and he struck a deal to buy Twitter on April 2022 for I think it was $54.20 a share. However, he immediately started backpedaling and hinting at having possible cold feet. So as of July 2022, he started saying like, hey, I'm not interested in this deal. He started tweeting about things like, hey, I think the deal is on hold. And he actually even started doing this back in May. He was like, hey, this deal is on hold because Twitter can't prove that fake accounts make up only 5% of all Twitter accounts. You know, in response, Twitter's board chairman Brett Taylor said the company intends to sue. His letter said the Twitter board is committed to closing the transaction on the price and terms agreed upon with Mr. Musk and plans to pursue legal action to enforce a merger agreement. We are confident we will prevail in court. And what's interesting is that in this merger agreement, from April, it could force them to close the deal. It essentially says that, hey, there is a $1 billion breakup fee, and there's a specific performance clause, right, that says the company can force they can sue to force a transaction to be completed. And one of the biggest hurdles that Musk has one of the biggest hurdles Musk faces is having debt financing in place and having the appropriate number for the appropriate financing in place in order to take the company private, right? He's not just pulling out, you know, contrary to popular belief, just a quick anecdote. People think if you're a billionaire like Bezos and Musk, they just have $100 billion of cash in their checking account. It doesn't work like that. A lot of their money is pegged against stock that they hold in their company. So if the value of the stock goes up or down, it's going to impact their holdings, right, that they can borrow against, right? Because if you have $100 worth of stock, I can borrow against that because, well, I sound Canadian, is that my stock is worth $100. But if my stock dips, now I can't borrow against $100 anymore. I can only borrow whatever the value of that stock is, right? So I'll go into that a little bit in a different video. But anyway, going back to this, is an example I'll give you is there's a very prominent private equity firm, a legendary private equity firm that was founded by Jerome Kohlberg and Company. They're a PE firm, and they had to close a $500 million deal recently. And the firm, the PE firm, Kohlberg and Company, they said, hey, the pandemic caused an adverse effect on the deal. We want to walk away. But a Delaware court ordered them to go through with the agreement, right? So we'll see how things play out in the legal system. So obviously, Elon Musk, very large, grandiose personality. He was not shaken by these threats. He's convinced that his initial claim that the company's bot accounts are more than 5% will be proven true. And funny enough, Ken Paxton, who's the attorney general in Texas, is also investigating claims by Elon that Twitter is falsifying the numbers of its users. Now, on the flip side, Elon's lawyer, Mike Ringler, has written the following. He said, sometimes Twitter has ignored Mr. Musk's request. Sometimes it has rejected them for reasons that appear unjustified. And sometimes it has claimed to comply while giving Mr. Musk incomplete or unusable information. Legal experts, however, see the case going in favor of Twitter. Now, of course, unless there is something nefarious or materially adverse that might get released against Twitter during or before the trial starts, I find that to be very unlikely. They've been a public company for a long time. They've had to been audited for years. They've had public filings. A lot of things are disclosed. So it'd be hard for me to see something just coming out the blue. But again, stranger things have happened. No pun intended. Most legal experts believe that the lack of information regarding these bot accounts is just not going to be sufficient enough to cancel the $44 billion take private. And what sucks is that this is really having an effect on Twitter's stock price, right? Up to this day right now in July, I think they've lost maybe 5 to 8% off their stock price. And I think it's even more now from when Musk initially announced the acquisition or the take private or his intentions to take the company private back in April. All right, so let's pivot over and talk about Twitter's business. What do they actually do, right? So Twitter makes its money in two ways. One is they license data to its business partners. And the second thing is advertising, right? So advertising fees comprise 85% of the company's revenue. So you can see why a claim that there are more bots than they report means that the company does not provide these companies the reach that they're paying for. So for example, if I'm paying Twitter because I think they can reach 100 million users, but 50% of those accounts are fake, then should I be paying you for reaching 100 million users or paying you because you can reach 50 million users, right? So, in fact, Twitter's business model, the way they incorporate their ads, there are four components. There's promoted ads, follower ads, and trend takeovers. Sorry, 3. And these are the different advertising segments that are used to satisfy clients' needs. So promoted ads are just essentially, if you've ever been on Twitter, I've seen this, if you're scrolling on your Twitter feed, you'll see like a Twitter bio profile pop up, and it'll look like an actual tweet, and it'll say like, hi, my name is Sajin. I tweet about, sports, careers, and finance. Like, follow me for more, right? So it does fit in very naturally. So I do like those promoted ads, and I think a lot of people are doing those. And they're not prompts, or they're not forcefully inserted like YouTube. Follower ads are kind of ads you see on the side, and they just suggest new accounts to follow based on the algorithm, studying what you prefer and what your interests are and whatnot. And then the last thing, trend takeovers are ads that are run alongside trending topics. So when you go to the search Twitter bar, you see trending topics, and your ad will be right there. And that's really just to help you get more eyeballs to your to your Twitter account. So the cost of these ads really does vary. So promoted ads are anywhere from 50 cents to $2, while promoted ads are $2 to $4 per new follower. So it can get pretty expensive if you want to get to 1 million followers. And then these promoted trends are usually 5 figures going into even 6 figures daily, right, per day. Now, if we move past advertising, Twitter actually made a little over $500 million, or $571 million exactly, from data licensing itself. So data licensing enables data partners to access and analyze historical and real-time data on these platforms. It's pretty much just like any other company that's selling your data to other companies. And you can see how this is really, really important for companies, right? So during election season, what users are searching, big cases that are going on, Supreme Court cases, whatever. And if you're getting that data in real time, now as a company, let's say I'm running for Congress or Senate, I can target people based on what they're searching in my region, right? Because I'm getting that information from Twitter based on what people are looking up on Twitter, right? So the advertising part can get really spooky and interesting because of this data licensing, because of the data that you can get, right? Now, pivoting to the beginning is the end, right? Twitter, what lies ahead, right? So Twitter competes with a lot of social media apps. I'm sure we all use them, right? And the difference is that the apps they compete with, while they differ in functionality, they all have the same main goal, which is vying for users' attention time. Even me right now using YouTube, my goal is to get you and capture retention time, right? So a lot of examples, obviously Trump's Truth Social trying to compete with Twitter. You have Parler, Telegram, Gab. Obviously we have Instagram, we have TikTok, which might become the largest social media platform in short order, right? In a year, we'll see what happens, right? TikTok might just get there, right? Now, my personal belief is that despite facing more competition than ever before, Twitter has the support of everyone, right? As far as the people on its platform, right? So despite its fair share of critics, for example, product features or lack thereof. So for example, the edit button, people have been clamoring about it for years. Twitter being accused of free speech restrictions, and something that's been happening a lot on Twitter that people accuse it of is shadow banning, right? Which is the algorithm just doesn't push any of your content, right? So a lot of the apps that I mentioned prior, so your TikToks, your Instagrams, whatever, and including Twitter, they all respond to this stuff in their own way in terms of how do they handle violations when it comes to their terms of service. But even with all of these kind of issues of like shadow banning, free speech restrictions, or what people consider to be free speech restrictions, even with all of this going on, ultimately what drives any social media platform is customer satisfaction, right? And those network effects, right? So look, whether or not a new app comes along and they say, hey, we're going to be better than Twitter, we're going to be more free speech friendly, I don't think Twitter's going anywhere, right? I think, yes, there are a plethora of other apps in the marketplace, but they exist to serve a specific purpose, none of which replicate what Twitter does. I think Twitter is really the land of the elite, right? When you look at who's really on Twitter, it's the land of the elite. It's where everyone is and where everyone wants to be. Everyone who's kind of like the someone of someone, they all want to be big on Twitter, right? Journalists. It's really just like journalists who run Twitter, I feel like, at a really high level, right? If you want to be big, you in that certain environment, you want to be on Twitter, right? Now, if an app were to come in, it would require a Herculean effort to throw it off and a huge mass migration of people leaving Twitter to make this other app successful. So, remember, a social media network is only as powerful and robust as its network, right? So if people are not on the social media app, it's not going to be successful. So I just don't see people leaving Twitter because of these perceived restrictions, right? Everyone's already on the platform, right? So if you're a journalist, you're an athlete, you're a celebrity, whatever your niche is and your environment is, your ecosystem already lives on Twitter. So if you go and leave somewhere else, unless those people follow you, no one's going to hear your voice on that other platform. And people are on social media, so their voices get heard, right? So why are you going to leave a platform where you have a voice and reach to go somewhere where no one is, right? So look, for that reason alone, in terms of network effects, I think Twitter will be fine. But please do add an edit button for me. It's Twitter /@SajinDoshi. And look, lastly, the biggest thing is that, Twitter's business model does work to an extent, not only when you look at it for, folks who consume the social media content on Twitter, by evidenced by the 200 billion tweets per year. Yes, 200 billion. We went from 20,000 to 200 billion. But also leveraging very, very important and precious data that Twitter is able to license out to companies, and also the ability to run advertising to reach targeted users. I don't see that going away, right? Listen, I think the future with Musk is unknown, but I think the company is on an exciting trajectory into the future that's going to continue with or without new ownership. And in conclusion, I think a lot of it does depend on, does Musk come in, shake things up, or does the current leadership team stay and kind of stay status quo to what they've been doing. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Please leave a comment below. A few things: your favorite person to follow on Twitter, and why; your favorite Twitter thread. Surprisingly, didn't really talk about those too much, but yeah, your favorite Twitter thread and your thoughts on the platform. Are you a real fan of Twitter, or you just go on to see what Elon is tweeting? And listen, if you guys like this video, please go ahead. And I hate to even ask this, but trust me, go ahead and smash the like button. It really does help. And if you want to see more videos like this, where I do deep dives on companies and stocks and whatnot, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. And hit the bell icon. It's somewhere. It turns on the notifications, so when I do release a video, But with that being said, until next time, thanks for watching. Tweet the video out, and see you guys later. Peace.